I think this sort of applies to everything. I mean, I, I like to call it the 4 P's: practice, perseverance, patience, and passion. Of course, practice goes without saying for everything. And then continuing to practice, keep it up is also equally as important. And you are not going to be able to speak a new language in a day. That's not realistic. I think it really comes down to passion in the end. I literally, I literally fell in love with Japan. I love the food. I love shabu-shabus and amazing. So I wanted to learn more about the culture and be able to really speak its my mind and be able to understand others. I think language as body language is important also. I think Japanese tend to look at English as just a form of communications that almost equal in Japanese. That's a direct translations. It's actually not. Different languages embody the culture, and many are centuries of development from that culture. Body language is part of speaking, so where you bow, you don't bow, you shake hand, it's that different. So you have to think about it in that way when you do communicate it in English. If you are gonna be using the American English, you should also adopt the American body language. Many people believe that children learn their language by listening to how their parents or older siblings talk and imitating them. In terms of language, children are said to be born with a so-called tabula rasa, which is a Latin expression meaning a clean slate or white sheet of paper. Simply put, children have no previous knowledge of any language at birth, and they paint the picture of language on a blank canvas in their mind by listening to the speeches of grown ups. Children repeated the process of listening and repeating the sentence again and again until they formed a habit of saying the sentence. The idea of language acquisition as a habit formation is based on behaviorist psychology. They pointed out that many adults often speak it even on their first language in an ungrammatical manner. If babies learn by what they hear, as the behaviorist says, then when they are exposed to ungrammatical or incomplete sentences, they should end up speaking quite ungrammatical sentences, but that rarely happens. Also, if babies only learn and repeated what they hear, how could they produce and understand sentences that they have never heard before? We cannot explain why we can understand it that produces totally new sentences if we stick to the idea that the babies learn by imitating what other people say. The babies born all over the world developed language at roughly the same time along the almost identical schedules. They started babies around 6 to 8 months and studying using a single word. When they are 12 to 18 months old and sometimes between 18 and 24 months, they start combining the words to make sentence unless a baby has some disability or illness. This is true with every child whenever they may be born or whoever their parents may be, as if it is programmed in their DNA and they are simply following the biologically determined timetable. In other words, babies are born with a seed of language, and when they receive the water of the local language, languages will automatically proud because people innately or inherently have this ability to develop language. People can acquire their first language in a very short period of time, whenever your parents are talkative or quiet. This idea is called the innatist approach of language acquisition. If this innatist view is correct, the people can develop their language system in their mind by simply being exposed to language samples. The baby should be able to acquire language by just listening to the radio or watching TV, but unfortunately they cannot. If you observe the way parents speak to their children, they usually modify their speech to make it more comprehensible to children, and the modifications are made according to the baby reactions as if they are interacting with each other. So I have talked on how people acquire their first language, how this view affected the language and the teaching of second or foreign languages, how people expanded the area of things that they can talk about and to do so into actions or scaffoldings with other people is essential for its development. Language learners are an important part of the best possible society. What better way to connect it deeply with a culture and individual from the culture than by immersing yourself in a language? A new language gives us so many ways to see the world and its people differently, whether it's taking your shoes off the door, sharing each other's cuisines, partnering to make words come to life and a translation, or simply enjoy conversation. We're all strangers when we first meet, but who knows what kind of music we might make together. Other cultures makes life more interesting, and other having to friends from other culture makes you more creative.
Bye.